I've been watching a lot of Spy Family lately. I've been heavily invested in the plot, the characters, the anime, the manga. I've actually gotten to the point where I am reading the manga as it updates every 2 weeks. So it has been it's kind of established itself as my new obsession and my new favorite manga in this regard. Doctor Stone ended, so I suppose that Spy Family is my new like favorite ongoing manga. I'm like obsessed with this thing, right? It's really odd because I feel like a lot of other anime fans like to call it mid or don't understand the appeal or like complain about like the lack of plot or like the focus on the slice of life stuff. But that's the stuff that I really really enjoy. That's the stuff I get really really invested in. That's the stuff that like I think really makes the series work. And there's a lot of things to be said about that, right? How the anime industry is changing, how like a lot of these established um, anime YouTube channels don't really understand why certain things are popular. Like if you ask like the average anime fan, they would tell you that Chainsaw Man was like the peak of like Shonen Jump series, and then like Spy Family was like mid, right? But the Chainsaw Man has never been as big as Spy Family. The anime didn't do as well. Meanwhile, like Spy Family has like eclipsed One Piece in popularity and like in like ratings or something. Now, I don't think like long term it's going to like maintain that position. I could totally see like it dropping off at some point. Like again, I don't do a lot of research into it, but there's no denying that like there's this real divide between like what hardcore anime fans like and what like mainstream audiences like, right? In a lot of ways, I think I side more and more with the mainstream audiences because I am not a lolicon, right? I don't watch shows like self-inserting as male characters with like 100 girlfriends, right? Like I don't watch shows with like 12-year-old girls fetishizing them, tweeting about how much I want to like be with lolicon. Like no, like that's stupid. It's disgusting. I am getting more and more like agitated at like the people who unironically like just completely just fetishize anime, fetishize Japanese culture, fetishizing like images of underage girls. Like it is deplorable. And I think like now that anime is a bit more popular in the West, we've been seeing like a big decline in that kind of thing. It does kind of feel like we're not seeing as many like 10,000-year-old dragons in the bodies of 12-year-old girls, or at least like not in like mainstream stuff. And I think in a lot of ways, Spy Family is a really good example of that because your Forger, my favorite anime waifu at the moment, the literal wife, your Forger, um, she is not all that fetishized. She's not all that sexualized. Um, she's not all that like much of a stereotypical anime character in this way. She's actually quite old for the average Shonen Jump character, right? Right. This is the same magazine that typically has like 12, 15-year-olds like fighting drug dealers or whatever. Yours is like 27. Kenshin was like 28, and he was like considered ancient by like the standards of the genre. And you're as a woman, so like 27 is like even more like of a dinosaur by their standards, right? But they really do a good job, like kind of establishing what makes your an interesting character with like her unique brand of autism, with like her skill set, with like her interests and her involvement in the plot, and her like relationship with like Twilight and Anya, and in the manga she becomes friends with Damien's mom. There's this all this like really interesting like things going on with her character, but she's not fetishized. Like that is, I think, a big part of what makes the character great in a lot of ways. In that she isn't like a caricature, right? She is an attractive, you know, black-haired, Amazonian beauty, right? She is an assassin that kills people for fun. Well, I mean, kills people like as part of her career, like she enjoys it, but whatever. Like, she is like a born killer in a lot of ways. Uh, but she's not all that better. Like she is fundamentally a good person. She is appealing. She is attractive. Like the series doesn't need to fetishize her in order to get across like how desirable and interesting of a person she actually is, right? I've talked numerous times about how much I like her and how much like, I would want to marry her and stuff like that. How much I like how hard she tries and how she's there for like Twilight and Anya and how she has like, trying to do better with like her autism and like, actually make friends and actually like, have a good relationship with her brother and like trying to like live a normal life in spite of her weird situations. Like I find that like super endearing and they don't have to sexualize her, right? More and more, I start to realize that, like, sexualizing female characters is just a cheap way of, like, getting an audience, like, to pay attention to them without really having like a reason to be invested without really giving them like a personality or a background or a role in the plot or like something to make you interested in them, right? They're not like people. They're not like real characters. They're just like objects for you to like lust over. Like, oh man. I'm trying to think of a stereotypical thing that like a lolicon would say about like an underage female character, but I I see this stuff so infrequently, I can't think of anything. Yeah, I don't talk to lolicons. Like, my Dragon Maid Koshawida is the best anime of the year because it has a bazillion lollies in it, right? Like, people would do that back in the day on YouTube channel. It's a big reason why I don't like watch anime YouTube channels because everyone, whether it's Digibro, best guy ever, Mother's Basement. All of these guys are just complete like incel basement dwelling. Well, Mother's Basement even has it in the YouTube channel. Basement dwelling like just spurgs who just openly lust for like these anime chicks, and like it is it is appalling, right? It is disgusting to see just how much of their interest in so many of these female characters is purely sexual with like no real regard for like who the character actually is, her role in the plot, what she's interested in, like her as a person, right? It is purely a sexual thing. And your Forger, I think, kind of breaks the mold in a lot of ways because, like, she is treated like an actual human being. And I really appreciate that. I really love the way they handle this specific character. It feels like a complete outlier in the anime industry in a lot of ways, but I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a major reason why Yor has established herself as my personal favorite character because she sticks out so much compared to so many other waifus we talk about, right? Like Yor, unlike the rest of these like underage thoughts, is actually a grown woman, and I really appreciate that about her.